She pulled the trigger twice. The man dropped, dead before he hit the ground. 18-year-old Riley Hawkins stood over the body smoke curling from her rifle blood, pooling at her boots. Behind her, 2 hostages sobbed with relief. Around her, 180 men who had called her Daddy's Princess watched in stunned silence. Senior Chief Kyle Mercer had spit on her boots 6 months ago, told her she was just borrowing her father's name, told her princesses didn't belong in the teams. Now that same princess had just saved 3 lives with 2 bullets. And the SEAL's justice was only beginning. Before we continue, subscribe to our channel and follow Riley's incredible journey to the very end. Comment your city below so I can see how far this story travels around the world. The Pacific Ocean crashed against the shore of Naval Special Warfare Center in Coronado, California, with the kind of violence that separated dreamers from warriors. It was March 2024, and 180 candidates stood in formation on the Grinder, that infamous concrete courtyard where SEAL legends were forged and ordinary men were broken. But today, something was different. Today, there was a woman in the formation. Riley Hawkins stood at 5'6", 132 pounds of lean muscle built through 18 years of refusing to be ordinary. Her dark hair was pulled back so tight it seemed to stretch the skin of her forehead. Her green eyes, her mother's eyes, tracked everything and gave back nothing. She was 18 years old. She was the youngest candidate in the formation by 3 years. And she was the daughter of Vice Admiral Marcus Hawkins, the most decorated Navy SEAL in modern history. The whispers started before her boots hit the concrete. That's her, the Admiral's kid. No way she makes it past day 1. Daddy's princess thinks she can play with the big boys. Riley heard every word. She cataloged each voice, each face, each sneer. She filed them away in the same mental compartment where she stored every insult she'd ever received, every doubt she'd ever faced, every person who'd ever told her she couldn't. That compartment was getting crowded. Senior Chief Kyle Mercer approached the formation like a predator selecting prey. At 38 years old, he'd spent 15 years breaking candidates, 15 years turning soft civilians into hard warriors. His face looked like it had been carved from granite and beaten with a hammer. Scars crossed his forearms like a road map of violence. He stopped directly in front of Riley. Well, well, well. His voice carried across the grinder designed to humiliate. Looks like we've got ourselves a celebrity. Riley kept her eyes forward. Parade rest. Perfect posture. Exactly as her father had taught her. Hawkins! Mercer screamed her name like a curse. You know what we call people like you around here? No senior chief. Tourists. He leaned closer, close enough that she could smell coffee and contempt on his breath. People who come to visit take some pictures and go home crying to mommy and daddy when things get hard. I'm not here to visit Senior Chief. Oh. His eyebrows rose in mock surprise. Then what are you here for, Princess? To earn my trident, Senior Chief. Laughter rippled through the formation. 179 men laughing at the girl who thought she could become a SEAL. Mercer didn't laugh. His eyes narrowed. Your daddy earned his trident, he said low enough that only she could hear. You think having his name means you can do the same. My name is Riley Hawkins, Senior Chief. I'm here to earn my own. For a long moment, Mercer just stared at her. Then he spat. The glob of saliva landed directly on her left boot. Clean that up, Princess. Welcome to Coronado. He walked away. Riley didn't move, didn't look down, didn't acknowledge the spit slowly soaking into the leather of her boot. Master Chief Derek Collins watched from 40 feet away. At 52 years old, he'd seen 3 decades of candidates come through this program. He'd seen men who looked like Greek gods quit in the first hour. He'd seen scrawny kids nobody believed in earn their tridents through sheer stubborn refusal to die. But he'd never seen anyone take disrespect like that without flinching. Collins had served under Marcus Hawkins. Syria, 2015. A mission that went wrong in every possible way. 3 men wounded, pinned down by enemy fire, no extraction possible. Marcus Hawkins had gone back into that kill zone 4 times. 4 separate trips through a wall of bullets to pull out his teammates. Collins had been the 4th. He owed his life to Admiral Marcus Hawkins. Now he was watching that man's daughter stand perfectly still, while a lesser man tried to break her with spit and insults. "Master Chief," Lieutenant Commander Davis approached. "Thoughts on the Hawkins situation?" Collins didn't take his eyes off Riley. She didn't flinch. "She's 18. She's female. She's the Admiral's daughter. This is going to be a circus." "Maybe." Collins finally turned. "Or maybe that girl is exactly what she looks like. And what's that? Dangerous." The barracks assignment came down at 0800. Riley got her bunk assignment, building 3-room, 12-bed 4. She would be the only female in a building of 47 men. She walked into that building knowing exactly what she'd find. Jake Thorne was waiting for her. 24 years old, former USC linebacker, 220 pounds of college athlete turned military hopeful. He blocked the hallway with his body arms crossed, jaw set. "Wrong building, sweetheart." Riley stopped. "Room 12, bed 4. That's my assignment." "Assignments can change." "Move." Jake laughed. It was not a kind sound. "Or what you gonna call, Daddy, get me shipped out." "I'm going to ask you one more time to move. Then I'm going to go around you. Then I'm going to file a formal interference complaint. Then I'm going to get on with my training while you explain to the base commander why you thought blocking a fellow candidate was a good idea." Jake's smile faltered. "You think you're tough? I think you're standing between me and my rack, and I've been up since 0400. Move!" Behind Jake, another candidate appeared. Cole Bradley, 23, former Marine infantryman. He'd done 2 tours in Afghanistan. As a grunt, decided he wanted to be something more, something elite. He'd seen enough combat to recognize the look in Riley's eyes. That wasn't the look of a scared girl. That was the look of someone who'd already decided how this encounter would end. "Jake." Cole's voice was quiet. "Let her through. Stay out of this, Bradley. She's a candidate, same as us. Let her through." Jake looked between them, calculating odds. 2 against 1 wasn't great. Getting written up on day 1 wasn't great either. He stepped aside with exaggerated slowness. "This isn't over, Princess." Riley walked past him without acknowledgement. She found her bunk, dropped her sea bag, and started unpacking with mechanical efficiency. Cole appeared in the doorway. "Jake's an idiot." "Jake's scared," Riley said without looking up. "Big difference. Scared of what, too?" Now she looked at him. "Scared of what I represent. If an 18-year-old girl can make it through this program, what does that say about him if he fails?" Cole considered this. "You really think you can make it?" "I don't think, I know." "That's not arrogance talking." Riley finished unpacking. She turned to face him fully. "My father started training me when I was 6 years old. I could field strip an M4 before I could do long division. I can run a 6-minute mile swim 2 miles in open ocean, and I've been holding my breath underwater for 4 minutes since I was 12. She paused. "But none of that matters." "Then what does—" "The only thing that's ever mattered. I don't quit. Dinner that night was a masterclass in isolation. Riley got her tray, found an empty table, and started eating. Within 30 seconds, every candidate within 10 feet had moved. She ate alone in a bubble of empty chairs and hostile stares. David Park approached her table. 22 years old, second-generation Korean-American Stanford engineering degree. He'd given up a 6-figure job offer to try for the teams. His parents still thought he'd lost his mind. "Mind if I sit?" Riley gestured to the empty chairs around her. "Take your pick." David sat. "You're either very brave or very stupid." "Why? Because sitting with you makes me a target too." "Then why are you sitting with me?" David took a bite of his food, chewed, swallowed. "Because my grandfather fought in Korea, came to this country with nothing, built a business, raised a family, became an American." He looked at her. People told him he didn't belong either. He didn't listen. Riley studied him. "You're taking a risk." "Calculated one. If you're half as tough as you look, being your friend is going to be valuable. If you're not, you'll be gone in a week anyway." For the first time all day, Riley almost smiled. Pragmatic. Stanford education. They ate in silence. Around them, the bubble remained. But now there were 2 people inside it, instead of 1. At 2200, Riley found the tiara in her bunk. It was cheap plastic, the kind you'd buy at a party store for a child's birthday. Silver paint flaking off fake rhinestones. A note attached, "Princesses don't belong in the teams." Her roommates, 3 male candidates, who'd been assigned to the same room through bureaucratic necessity, pretended to be asleep. Riley could see their eyes reflecting the dim light, watching to see what she'd do. She picked up the tiara, examined it carefully. Then she walked to her locker, opened it, and placed the tiara on the top shelf where she could see it every morning. "What are you doing?" One of the roommates couldn't help himself. "Keeping it." "Why?" Riley closed her locker. "Because in 6 months, when I earn my trident, I'm going to wear this tiara at graduation. I'm going to find whoever gave it to me, and I'm going to thank them for the motivation." She climbed into her rack and closed her eyes. She didn't sleep. She never slept well in new places. But she kept her eyes closed, and her breathing steady, and her mind focused on one simple truth. She would be here long after her enemies had quit. Day 2 began at 04:45 with the sound of trash cans being thrown down the hallway. "Get up! Get up! Get up!" Instructors stormed through the barracks like an invading army. Riley was already dressed, already moving, already outside before most candidates had found their boots. Mercer noticed. His eyes tracked her as she fell into formation, and something flickered across his face. Annoyance, respect, impossible to tell. "Today," Mercer shouted, "we find out who belongs here and who's wasting oxygen." The physical screening test, 400-meter swim, minimum push-ups, minimum sit-ups, minimum pull-ups, minimum run time, meet the standards or go home. Riley had beaten every standard by 20% in her pre-training assessment. She wasn't worried about the test. She was worried about what would happen during it. The swim came first. Candidates entered the pool in groups of 10. Riley's group included Jake Thorne, 2 of his linebacker friends, and 6 strangers who avoided her eyes. "On my whistle," the instructor announced. 400 meters, combat side stroke, beat the time or ring the bell." The whistle blew. Riley knifed through the water with the efficiency that came from 14 years of competitive swimming. Stroke, kick, glide. Stroke, kick, glide. The rhythm was automatic, burned into muscle memory. She finished 3rd in her group. Jake finished 5th. He didn't look happy about it. Push-ups came next. 100 minimum in 2 minutes. Riley cranked out 117. Jake managed 112. His face was red. Not from exertion. Sit-ups. Pull-ups. Run. By the end of the morning, Riley had beaten every minimum standard placed in the top 15% of all candidates and not once asked for special treatment. But it didn't matter. At lunch, she heard the whispers. Instructors went easy on her. Different standards for females. Daddy probably made some calls. Riley got her tray, found her empty table, ate alone. David Park didn't join her this time. He was at a table with other candidates, talking, laughing, building the relationships that would carry them through the weeks ahead. She didn't blame him. Survival required strategy. Being her friend was a strategy with diminishing returns. Cole Bradley sat down across from her. "You're still here," he said. "You sound surprised." "I'm not. I'm impressed." He started eating. "You know what they're saying about you?" "I can guess. They're saying you only performed well because the instructors went easy. And what do you think?" Cole chewed his food slowly. "I think I was in that pool with you. I saw your form. That wasn't someone being treated gently. That was someone who trained their whole life for this moment." Riley studied him. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I've been to war, Hawkins. I've seen what happens when politics infects a unit. People die." He set down his fork. "I don't care if you're female. I don't care if your daddy is an admiral. I care if you can perform when bullets are flying and people are bleeding. And so far you can." He stood. "But so far doesn't mean anything. This program hasn't even started yet." He walked away. Riley finished her meal alone. Week 1 was designed to break spirits. Every morning started at 04:30. Every night ended after 2200. In between running swimming calisthenics obstacle courses, classroom instruction, more running, more swimming, more suffering. Riley kept pace with the top performers. She didn't lead. That would draw too much attention. She didn't lag. That would confirm their suspicions. She stayed in the middle top, visible enough to prove herself invisible enough to avoid becoming a target. It didn't work. Wednesday morning, she found sand in her boots. Someone had poured a handful of fine beach sand into each boot while they dried overnight. She wore them anyway, running 3 miles with grit rubbing her feet raw. Thursday, her canteen disappeared. She didn't report it. She borrowed water from David Park, who'd started quietly leaving extra supplies where she could find them. Friday, the word princess appeared on her locker door in permanent marker. She didn't clean it off. She added a small crown above the letters drawn with her own marker. If they wanted her to own the title, she would. She'd make princess mean something they never intended. The pool competency test came at the end of week 2. Candidates entered the water in pairs. Instructors harassed them, stealing masks, tangling equipment, simulating the chaos of underwater combat. Those who panicked failed. Those who quit failed. Those who kept their heads passed. Riley's partner was Jake Thorne. "Isn't this convenient?" Jake muttered as they stood at the pool's edge. "Focus on the test, Thorne. Or what you'll tell Daddy." The whistle blew before Riley could respond. They entered the water. Chief Petty Officer Walsh was waiting for them. He'd been briefed on Riley unofficially, of course. No one had specifically told him to target her, but everyone understood the unspoken expectations. Make her quit. Make her prove she doesn't belong. Walsh came for Riley first. He ripped off her mask. She recovered it, calmly cleared. It continued the evolution. He tangled her regulator hose. She untangled it without surfacing. He held her underwater for 30 seconds past the normal harassment time. She didn't panic. She didn't fight. She went still, conserved oxygen, waited. Walsh finally let her go. She completed the rest of the test with mechanical precision. When she surfaced, she saw something on Walsh's face she hadn't expected. Doubt. That night, Master Chief Collins found her alone in the equipment room, checking her gear for the next day's training. Hawkins, she stood at attention. Master Chief? At ease, this isn't official. He leaned against a wall. I saw your pool test today. Yes, Master Chief. Walsh pushed you hard. Yes, Master Chief. Collins was quiet for a moment. I served with your father, Syria 2015. Riley's composure flickered. Just for a second. I know. He saved my life. Went back into a kill zone 4 times to pull out wounded men. I was the 4th. He doesn't talk about it. Men like your father never do. Collins straightened. I'm not going to give you special treatment because of what he did. But I'm not going to let anyone sabotage you either. You understand? Yes, Master Chief. Good. He moved toward the door, then stopped. One more thing. Your father called the base commander last week. Riley's heart dropped. He what? He called to say one thing. My daughter is a candidate. Treat her like every other candidate. If she succeeds, it's because she earned it. If she fails, it's because she earned that too. Then he hung up. Collins left. Riley stood alone in the equipment room, processing what she'd just heard. Her father, the man who could have smoothed every path, removed every obstacle, guaranteed every success, had called only to ensure she'd receive no special treatment. He believed in her enough to let her fail. For the first time since arriving at Coronado, Riley Hawkins cried. Not from sadness, not from fear, from the terrifying weight of having to earn everything herself. Week 3 brought the night navigation exercise, 15 miles through rough terrain using only map and compass. Riley's assigned partner was Cole Bradley. They set out at 2100, navigating by starlight and skill. For the first hour, they moved in efficient silence, trading map duty every 30 minutes. Then Cole made a mistake. We should be at checkpoint 2 by now, he said, scanning the darkness. I don't see the marker. Riley checked the map, checked their position, checked the terrain features around them. We're off course. Your last bearing was 10 degrees east of where it should have been. Cole's jaw tightened. You sure? I'm sure. Then you navigate from here. She took the map, recalculated their route, led them through a ravine and up a ridge that Cole would have missed entirely. They found checkpoint 240 minutes late, but they found it. Good call, Cole admitted as they marked their time. We're a team, that's the point. Most people would have let me fail so they could say they were right. Most people are more concerned with being right than completing the mission. Riley started moving toward checkpoint 3. I'm not most people. They finished the navigation exercise in the top 20%. Not first, but solid. More importantly, they finished together. Week 4 began with a whisper that became a scream. Ocean swim today. 2 miles. The Pacific is angry. Riley stood on the beach at 0530, watching 8-foot swells crash against the shore. The water temperature was 58 degrees, cold enough to kill an unprepared swimmer in under an hour. Candidates will swim in groups of 10, Mercer announced. You will maintain visual contact with your swim buddy at all times. Lose your buddy, you fail. Fall behind the cutoff time, you fail. Quit, you fail. Riley's swim buddy was David Park. They entered the water together, the cold hitting like a physical blow. Riley's breath seized for 3 seconds before her training kicked in. Controlled breathing, steady strokes, mind over matter. They were halfway through the swim when David started struggling. The current was stronger than expected. It pushed against their bodies with invisible force, turning a 2-mile swim into something closer to 3. David's strokes became erratic. His breathing turned ragged. "Park!" Riley called over the waves. "Stay with me. I'm trying." His voice was weak, desperate. "Don't try. Do. Match my pace. 1 stroke at a time." But the current was pulling him sideways. Away from her. Away from the formation. Riley faced a choice. Maintain her pace and risk losing her swim buddy, automatic failure. Or slow down, help David, and risk missing the cutoff time, also failure. She chose David. She altered her stroke, moved closer to him, positioned herself between him and the current. The physics were simple. She was breaking the water for him, taking the brunt of the force while he swam in her wake. "What are you doing?" David gasped. "Shut up and swim." The safety boats circled closer. Instructors watched through binoculars. They saw what Riley was doing, saw her sacrificing her own time to help a struggling teammate. Nobody helped her. The rules didn't allow it. They crossed the finish line together. Riley's time was 38 seconds under the cutoff. David's was 12 seconds under. They'd both passed. Barely. Mercer was waiting on the beach. "Hawkins." His voice was different. Still hard, but with something underneath. "Why didn't you leave him?" Riley was shaking from cold, exhausted beyond words, but she answered without hesitation. "Because SEALs don't leave people behind, Senior Chief." Mercer stared at her for a long moment. Then he walked away without another word. That night, Riley found something in her locker. Not a tiara this time. A note written in an unfamiliar hand. "I was wrong about you. Maybe we all were. J.T." Jake Thorne's initials. Riley read the note twice. Then she placed it next to the tiara on her top shelf. She was starting to build a collection. Evidence of changed minds. Proof that actions spoke louder than names. But the real test was still coming. At 2200, the instructors announced the schedule for next week. Pool Competency Advancement Test. Full Harassment Protocol. This is where boys become men. They didn't mention girls becoming warriors. They didn't have to. Riley lay in her rack, staring at the ceiling, knowing that everything she'd survived so far was just the introduction. The real story was about to begin, and she was ready to write it. The Pool Competency Advancement Test began at 0600 on a Monday morning that felt like a funeral. Riley stood at the pool's edge with 43 other candidates who had survived the first month of preparation. 137 had already quit, shipped out, or been medically dropped. The brass bell at the edge of the grinder had rung so many times that Riley had stopped counting. Chief Petty Officer Walsh walked the line of candidates like a shark circling wounded prey. His eyes lingered on Riley 2 seconds longer than anyone else. "Today," Walsh announced, "we separate swimmers from sinkers. You will perform underwater equipment recovery while my instructors do everything in their power to make you panic. Panic means failure. Surface without authorization means failure. Quit means failure." He stopped directly in front of Riley. "Any questions, Princess?" "No, Chief." "Good. You're first." The other candidates shifted. First was bad. First meant the instructors were fresh, energetic, creative in their cruelty. First meant no chance to watch others and learn their mistakes. Riley walked to the pool's edge without hesitation. "Mask and fins on the bottom," Walsh said. "Retrieve them, clear your mask, underwater surface with equipment secured." Simple enough for a child. Riley entered the water. The cold hit her like a slap, but she'd been training in cold water since she was 12. Her father had made her swim in the Pacific every morning during their summers in Coronado, building tolerance for exactly this moment. She dove. The mask and fins were 30 feet down, resting on the pool floor like bait in a trap. Riley kicked steadily downward, equalizing pressure as she descended. Walsh hit the water behind her. He grabbed her ankle first, yanking her backward. Riley didn't fight it. She let her body go limp, conserved energy, waited for him to release. When he did, she continued her descent. He grabbed her mask the moment she reached it, ripping it from her hands. Riley didn't chase it. She found her fins, first secured them on her feet, then pursued the mask with calm, measured strokes. Walsh tangled her hair, pulled her regulator from her mouth, held her against the pool floor with his full body weight. 30 seconds, 40 seconds, 50 seconds. Riley's lungs burned. Her vision started to narrow. But she didn't fight, didn't panic. She found the mask, cleared it underwater while Walsh still pressed against her and began her ascent. He grabbed her ankle again, pulled her back down, held her at 20 feet for another 15 seconds. Her oxygen was running out. Her body screamed for air. Every instinct demanded she fight claw surface by any means necessary. She went still instead. Complete relaxation. Zero resistance. Walsh released her. She surfaced with mask-cleared fins secured, and just enough air left in her lungs to take a controlled breath instead of gasping. "Time," Walsh called to the instructor on deck. 3 minutes 47 seconds. Well under the 4-minute limit. Riley had passed, but Walsh wasn't finished. Again. Riley looked at him. "Chief, you heard me. Again. Equipment back on the bottom. Go." "That's not standard protocol, Chief." "I'm the instructor. I decide what's standard." Walsh's eyes were cold. "Unless you want to quit." Riley held his gaze for 3 seconds. Then she removed her mask, and fins dropped them back to the pool floor and dove. The second iteration was worse. Walsh brought another instructor. They worked in tandem, one holding her down while the other scattered her equipment across the pool floor. They held her underwater for over a minute, watching her struggle against the limits of human physiology. She surfaced with mask and fins secured. 4 minutes, 12 seconds. Again. "Chief!" The deck instructor started to protest. "I said again." Riley didn't argue. She dropped her equipment and dove. The third time they held her under for 90 seconds. She felt consciousness starting to slip, felt her vision tunneling toward blackness. She thought about her father, about the 4 times he'd gone back into enemy fire, about what he'd said when she asked him how he'd survived. "I decided I wasn't going to die. And then I didn't." She decided she wasn't going to quit. She surfaced with equipment secured. 4 minutes, 51 seconds. 9 seconds under the limit. Walsh stared at her for a long moment. Something shifted in his expression. Not respect exactly, but recognition. "Get out of my pool, Hawkins." Riley climbed out on shaking legs. Her lungs felt like they'd been filled with broken glass. Her arms trembled from oxygen deprivation. Cole Bradley was waiting with a towel. "That was 3 tests," he said quietly. "Standard is 1. I noticed. You should report it." Riley wrapped the towel around her shoulders. "No. They're targeting you specifically. I know." "So why not report it?" Riley watched Walsh moving to the next candidate, his demeanor suddenly normal, professional, by the book. Because if I report every unfair thing that happens to me, I become the girl who complains, and complaints don't earn tridents. She started walking toward the locker room. Performance does. That night, Master Chief Collins found Walsh in the instructor office. 3 iterations, Collins said. That's not testing. That's hazing. Walsh didn't look up from his paperwork. She passed. She almost drowned. But she didn't. Now Walsh met his eyes. You know what's waiting for her if she makes it through combat. Real enemies. Situations where almost gets people killed. He leaned back. I'm doing her a favor. You're doing yourself a favor, justifying your bias by calling it training. Walsh's face hardened. I've been doing this for 12 years, Master Chief. I've seen what happens when we lower standards. People die. Standards weren't lowered. She exceeded them. 3 times. Collins moved closer. If I see you target her again without cause, I'll make it official. And your 12-year career will end with a formal review board. Are you threatening me? I'm informing you of consequences. Collins walked to the door. There's a difference. Riley didn't learn about this conversation until months later. At the time, she only knew that Walsh never singled her out again. But the harassment didn't stop. It just became more creative. 2 days after the pool test, Riley found her uniforms shredded. Every piece of clothing in her locker had been cut with scissors, or a knife reduced to unwearable rags. She reported to formation in her PT gear, the only clothing that had been spared. Mercer noticed immediately. Hawkins, where's your uniform? Destroyed, Senior Chief. I'll have replacements by 1200. Destroyed how? Unknown, Senior Chief. Mercer's eyes swept the formation. Every candidate stared straight ahead, faces blank. Someone in this formation knows what happened to Hawkins' uniforms. That person has until 1800 to come forward. If no one does, the entire class runs the O course at midnight. No one came forward. At midnight, 142 candidates ran the obstacle course in full gear, while instructors screamed and sprayed them with fire hoses. Riley ran alongside everyone else, refusing to be the reason for collective punishment, but also refusing to show that the punishment was meant for her. At 200, Jake Thorne collapsed next to her during the low crawl. I didn't do it, he gasped. The uniforms, that wasn't me. I know. How? Because you signed your note. Whoever did this is a coward. Cowards don't sign things. Jake laughed despite his exhaustion. You're insane, Hawkins. Probably. She started crawling again. Now move. We've got 200 meters to go. They finished the O course at 0347. 4 more candidates quit before dawn. The next week brought surf torture. Candidates lay in the Pacific Ocean waves, crashing over them, instructors ordering them to link arms and stay down. The water temperature was 54 degrees. Hypothermia could set in within 30 minutes. Riley lay between David Park and a candidate named Marcus Webb. Marcus was 25, former college swimmer, built like a Greek god. He'd been one of the favorites to complete the program. 20 minutes into surf torture, he started shaking uncontrollably. Webb, Riley said through chattering teeth. Focus on my voice. Can't feel my legs. You don't need to feel them. You need to stay down. Stay linked. Stay with us. I want to quit. His voice cracked. God, I want to quit so bad. David Park spoke from Riley's other side. Think about why you're here, Webb. Think about who you're doing this for. I can't. Your mom, Riley said. You told me about her. Breast cancer, right? Beat it twice. You said she's the toughest person you know. Webb's shaking intensified. She is. Is she tougher than this water? A pause. Yes. Then so are you. Her son, her blood. You're not quitting on her. You're not quitting on us. Focus on my voice and stay down. The instructors blew the whistle 3 minutes later. Surf torture ended. Webb made it. He found Riley afterwards still shaking, barely able to stand. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We've got 6 more weeks of this. I know. But I was going to quit, right there. My hand was coming up to signal. I know. Riley met his eyes. That's why I talked. Webb stared at her. Why do you care? I haven't exactly been nice to you. Because SEALs don't leave people behind, even people who haven't been nice. She walked away before he could respond. That night, 3 more candidates approached her at dinner. Not friends, not yet. But something had shifted. The princess who supposedly didn't belong had just talked a golden boy through the worst moment of his training. People noticed. Hell Week arrived on a Sunday evening in May. The sun was setting over Coronado when the explosions started. Smoke grenades, simulated artillery, instructors screaming through megaphones. Hell Week has begun. Get wet, and Sandy move, move, move. 118 candidates sprinted toward the ocean. They'd been at this for 5 weeks. They'd lost almost 40% of their class. Those who remained were supposed to be ready. Nobody was ready for Hell Week. Riley hit the water running and dove under the first wave. The cold was familiar now, almost comfortable. She emerged on the other side and immediately dropped for push-ups in the wet sand. Hawkins, your push-ups look like a dying fish. Start over. She started over. Hawkins, did your daddy teach you to count? That was only 12. Start over. She started over. For the next 6 hours, Riley existed in a blur of physical punishment and verbal abuse. Running swimming calisthenics boat carries log PT. No sleep, no rest, just constant, unrelenting suffering. By Monday morning, 23 candidates had quit. The brass bell rang so often it became background noise. Riley's boat crew consisted of 7 people herself. Cole Bradley, David Park, Jake Thorne, Marcus Webb, and 2 others named Elena Vasquez and Tyler Kim. They were assigned a 200-pound inflatable boat that they would carry, paddle, and curse for the rest of the week. Jake was designated boat crew leader by the instructors. All right, Jake said during their first brief moment of rest. We stay together. We move together. Nobody quits. Easy to say now, Tyler muttered. It's been 8 hours. And we've got 120 more to go. Jake looked at each of them. I don't care about what happened before. I don't care who likes who. The only thing that matters is that none of us rings that bell. Riley met his eyes. He nodded once, a gesture of truce. Boat crew ready, an instructor screamed. Ready, they shouted in unison. Then move boats on heads down to the water now. They lifted the boat onto their heads and started running. By Tuesday, Riley had stopped feeling her feet. The constant immersion in salt water had turned them into raw, bleeding masses of blisters and torn skin. Every step felt like walking on broken glass. She didn't complain. Nobody complained. Complaining was quitting in slow motion. Boat crew leader, Mercer shouted during a paddle exercise. Your crew is the slowest in the water. Fix it. Jake pushed harder, calling cadence, driving them forward. But Elena was struggling. She'd taken on water during the last surf passage and couldn't match the paddle rhythm. Vasquez, you're weak. You're dragging down your crew. Stay with us, Elena, Riley said between strokes. Match my paddle? Right there. Right there. I can't. You can. You are. Feel that. That's improvement. Keep going. They finished the paddle exercise in 5th place instead of 7th. Small victory, massive significance. That night, during a brief moment when the instructors allowed them to sit, Elena found Riley. "Why did you help me?" "Because you're my crew." "But if I slow us down, we all get punished. It would be easier if I quit." Riley looked at her. Really looked. Elena Vasquez was 26, former Coast Guard rescue swimmer, one of only 3 women remaining in the program. "How many female candidates started?" Riley asked. 12. "How many are left?" Elena was quiet. 3. "You, me, and Lieutenant Commander Santos. If you quit, we're down to 2. If I quit, we're down to 1. If Santos quits, there are none." Riley leaned closer. "This isn't about you, Elena. This isn't about me. This is about every woman who's going to try this after us. Everyone who's going to look at the numbers and decide whether it's possible. So we stay for them. We stay because we earned the right to be here. But we also stay for them. Because legacy isn't just about what you accomplish. It's about what you make possible for others." Elena was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. "I won't quit." "I know. I saw your eyes when you were struggling. That wasn't the look of someone about to give up. That was the look of someone fighting." "How could you tell the difference?" Riley almost smiled. "Because I see that look in the mirror every morning." Wednesday brought the worst evolution yet, the around-the-world paddle. Boat crews would paddle their inflatable boats in a massive circuit around the Naval Special Warfare compound. Miles of open water, strong currents, no rest. Riley's crew launched with 23 other boats. Within an hour, they were separated from the pack, fighting a current that seemed determined to push them backward. "We're falling behind," Tyler shouted. "Paddle harder," Jake commanded. "We are paddling harder. It's not working." Riley watched the water, calculated the current, made a decision. "Jake, we need to go left. Left. That's the long way. The current is pushing right. Everyone's fighting it. If we go left, we work with the current on the return leg instead of against it." "That's insane." "It's physics." Jake hesitated. The crew looked at him, then at Riley, then back at him. "Do it," Cole said. "She's right. I've seen this current before. Left is the play." Jake made the call. "Left paddle, turn us." They turned left while every other boat continued straight into the current. For 30 minutes, they were dead last. Then they rounded the corner of the circuit, caught the current, and flew. They finished 7th. 5 boats that had been ahead of them never finished at all. Their crews quit from exhaustion. Mercer was waiting at the shore. "Who called that navigation change?" Jake looked at Riley. Riley looked at Mercer. "I did, Senior Chief." Mercer stared at her. "Princess knows about currents. Princess has been swimming this coast since she was 8 years old, Senior Chief." Something flickered in Mercer's eyes. He turned away without another word. Thursday morning, 3 hours until Hell Week ended. Riley could barely see. Hallucinations flickered at the edges of her vision. Her father's face, her mother's voice, memories and dreams blurring together into something that wasn't quite reality. "Stay awake, Hawkins," Cole's voice somewhere nearby. "Almost there." "How long?" 2 hours, 47 minutes. An eternity. A lifetime. An impossible distance measured in seconds. The instructors called for one final evolution surf passage. All remaining boat crews would paddle through the breaking waves beyond the surf zone and back. Simple. Straightforward. The kind of thing they'd done 100 times this week. But nothing in Hell Week was simple. The waves were bigger than expected. 8 feet, maybe 10. Walls of dark water that crashed with enough force to flip boats, scatter crews, drown the unprepared. "Boat crews in the water now!" Riley's crew lifted their boat and charged into the surf. The first wave hit them like a freight train, nearly ripping the boat from their hands. They held on, pushed forward, took the second wave head on. They made it past the break zone. They were turning around when Riley heard the scream. 50 meters to her right, Marcus Webb's boat had flipped. Candidates were scattered in the water, most swimming for the overturned hull. But Webb wasn't swimming. Webb was sinking. The current had caught him, pulling him under, and he was too exhausted to fight it. His arms were barely moving, his head kept disappearing beneath the waves. The safety boats were responding, but they were far away dealing with another flipped craft 200 meters south. Riley didn't think. She dove. The water closed over her head, cold and dark and violent. She kicked toward where she'd last seen Webb fighting the current that wanted to drag her in the opposite direction. She found him 8 feet down, unconscious, sinking fast. Riley grabbed him under the arms and kicked for the surface. He was dead weight, 200 pounds of muscle and bone, pulling her toward the bottom. Her lungs burned, her legs screamed. Every cell in her body demanded she let go, save herself, survive. She kicked harder. They broke the surface together. Webb wasn't breathing. Riley supported his head above water with one arm, while her other arm and legs fought to keep them both afloat. She was 60 meters from the nearest boat, exhausted beyond anything she'd ever experienced, holding a drowning man in water that wanted to kill them both. "Hawkins has Webb! Hawkins has Webb!" Cole's voice screaming from somewhere. The safety boat arrived 90 seconds later. 90 seconds of fighting waves, fighting current, fighting the drowning reflex that made Webb's unconscious body grab at her, pull at her, drag her down. They pulled Webb onto the boat. He wasn't breathing. The medics started CPR immediately. Riley floated in the water, too exhausted to climb aboard, watching them work on the man she'd pulled from the deep. Webb coughed, vomited water, breathed. He was alive. The boat crew hauled Riley out of the water. She lay on the deck, staring at the sky, feeling absolutely nothing. "Time?" someone asked. She was in the water for 4 minutes. Webb was under for at least 2. 4 minutes. She'd held a drowning man above water for 4 minutes in 8-foot swells after 5 days without sleep. "Hawkins," Mercer's voice cutting through the fog. "Hawkins, look at me." She turned her head. Mercer was on the safety boat, staring at her with an expression she'd never seen on his face. "You missed the time cutoff for surf passage. You're out." Riley processed the words slowly. Out. She'd failed. After everything, after 5 days of hell, she'd failed because she'd saved someone's life. "Senior Chief," Cole started. "Quiet, Bradley." Master Chief Collins spoke from somewhere behind Mercer. "There's a regulation about time adjustments for rescue operations." "I'm aware of the regulations." "Then you're aware that her time should be adjusted." Mercer turned to face Collins. "Should it? Or is that just special treatment for the princess?" The boat was silent. Every candidate, every instructor, every medic watched the confrontation. Riley stood. Her legs shook. Her vision swam. But she stood. "Senior Chief." Her voice was hoarse, barely audible. "What do the regulations actually say about time adjustments for rescue actions?" Mercer looked at her. She looked back. "Because if I recall correctly," she continued, "regulation specifies that time penalties may be waived for candidates who perform authorized rescue operations. Webb was drowning. The safety boats were engaged elsewhere. I was the only one close enough to reach him." "You're citing regulations to me. I'm asking a question, Senior Chief. What do the regulations say?" Collins stepped forward. "She's right. Time adjustment is authorized. She passed. Mercer's jaw tightened. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Mercer turned away. Get her back to the beach. Hell Week ends in 90 minutes. The boat started moving toward shore. Cole sat down next to Riley. That was either the bravest thing I've ever seen or the stupidest. Probably both. You saved his life. Riley closed her eyes. That's the job. Or it will be if they let me finish. They'll let you finish. After that, they have to. She didn't respond. She was too tired to hope, too exhausted to believe. But somewhere deep inside, in a place the cold couldn't reach and the doubts couldn't touch, Riley Hawkins knew one thing with absolute certainty. She was not going to quit. Not today. Not ever. The boat reached the shore. Riley stood on shaking legs and walked toward the formation area where the remaining candidates were gathering for the end of Hell Week. Of 118 who had started, 41 remained. She was one of them. Hell Week ended at 1500 on a Friday afternoon. 41 candidates stood in formation, swaying on their feet like zombies, barely conscious, but still standing. 5 days without sleep. 5 days of constant physical punishment. 5 days of watching friends quit, watching dreams die, watching the brass bell ring again and again. Riley Hawkins was one of the 41. Senior Chief Mercer walked the line, inspecting each candidate with eyes that gave nothing away. When he reached Riley, he stopped. Hawkins, Senior Chief. You pulled Webb out of the water. Yes, Senior Chief. Why? Riley's exhausted brain struggled to form words. Because he was drowning, Senior Chief. That's not what I asked. Mercer leaned closer. Why did you risk your own completion to save someone who's been giving you hell for 6 weeks? Riley met his eyes. Even through the fog of exhaustion, she found the answer. Because what he did to me doesn't matter. What I do defines me. Mercer stared at her for a long moment. Then he moved on without another word. The ceremony was brief. Captain Morrison addressed the survivors, congratulated them on completing Hell Week, reminded them that the hardest parts were still ahead. Phase 2, combat diving. Phase 3, land warfare. Months more of training before they'd earned the right to call themselves SEALs. But today they'd survived. Today they'd proven they wouldn't quit. After dismissal, Marcus Webb found Riley in the medical tent where corpsmen were treating her feet. The blisters had become infected during the last 2 days. She'd been walking on open wounds without complaint. Hawkins. She looked up. Webb's eyes were red, haunted by something beyond exhaustion. I remember being underwater, he said quietly. I remember thinking, this is it, I'm done. And then someone grabbed me. You would have done the same. Would I? His voice cracked. I've been terrible to you, called you princess behind your back, laughed when others mocked you, and you risked everything to pull me out. Webb, no, let me finish. He took a shaky breath. I was wrong about you. Wrong about everything. I thought you were here because of your father. I thought you'd get special treatment. Instead, you got targeted harder than anyone, and you still saved my life. Riley didn't know what to say. The exhaustion was too deep for eloquent responses. Thank you, Webb said. I don't deserve it, but thank you. He walked away before she could respond. Cole Bradley sat down next to her. Making friends everywhere you go. Apparently. How are the feet? Still attached. That's what matters. Cole laughed, but there was no humor in it. We did it. Hell Week actually did it. We did. 41 out of 180, less than 25%. Riley looked at the other survivors gathering outside the medical tent. Jake Thorne Tyler, Kim Elena Vasquez, David Park, her boat crew, her team. "We're not done yet," she said. "I know, but tonight can we just pretend we are?" She almost smiled. "Tonight we sleep. Tomorrow we start again." But tomorrow would bring something none of them expected. The investigation began 3 days later. Dr. Sarah Chen, the base psychologist, had been documenting everything since week 1. Every instance of targeted harassment, every deviation from standard protocol, every time Riley Hawkins was treated differently from other candidates. The near-drowning incident with Marcus Webb triggered a formal safety review, and when the review board started looking at pool competency records, they found something disturbing. Chief Petty Officer Walsh had put Riley through 3 iterations of the underwater test. Standard protocol called for 1. His justification in the official log, candidate showed signs of panic. Additional testing required. But the video footage told a different story. Riley hadn't panicked. Not once. Not for a single second. Captain Morrison called Walsh into his office on a Tuesday morning. "Explain this." Walsh looked at the footage playing on Morrison's monitor. His face remained impassive. "I was testing her limits, sir." "You were testing her limits, or you were trying to make her quit?" "There's a difference." Morrison leaned forward. "There's a significant difference, Chief. Testing limits is training. Trying to force a candidate out through excessive harassment is hazing. One is legal, the other ends careers." "With respect, sir, she passed. All 3 times." "That's not the point." Morrison's voice hardened. "The point is you gave her a test designed to break her, and when she passed it, you gave it to her again. And again. No other candidate received that treatment. No other candidate is the daughter of an admiral. And there it is." Morrison stood. "You're relieved of instructor duties pending formal review." Walsh's face went white. "Sir." "Dismissed, Chief." The news spread through the candidate barracks within hours. Walsh had been removed. An investigation was ongoing. Someone was finally being held accountable for the systematic targeting of Riley Hawkins. Jake Thorne found her in the chow hall that evening. "You heard about Walsh?" "I heard." "Did you report him?" Riley shook her head. "Dr. Chen's been documenting everything since week 1. She's the one who flagged the discrepancies." "So you didn't ask for this?" "I never asked for any of this, Thorne. Not the harassment, not the investigation, not the constant spotlight." She set down her fork. "I just wanted to train." Jake sat across from her. "For what it's worth, I'm glad they caught him. What he did in that pool wasn't training. It was attempted murder." "That's dramatic." "Is it? He held you underwater until you almost blacked out. 3 times. If you'd been anyone else, you would have drowned." Riley was quiet for a moment. "Maybe. Or maybe anyone else would have quit before it got that far. That's my point." Jake leaned forward. "You didn't quit. You should have. Any sane person would have. But you kept going, and Walsh kept pushing, and eventually one of you was going to break. He thought it would be me. He was wrong." That night, Master Chief Collins knocked on Riley's barracks door. "Walk with me, Hawkins." They walked along the beach in the darkness, waves crashing nearby, the lights of San Diego glittering across the bay. "You know why Walsh is really being investigated?" Collins asked. "Because he hazed me. Because he almost killed you, and he documented it himself. 3 iterations, official log, video footage. The man built his own court-martial case." Collins shook his head. "Arrogance. He thought he was untouchable because he'd been doing this for 12 years. What happens to him now? Formal review board. Probably reduction in rank. Possibly discharge. Definitely never instructing again." Riley absorbed this. I didn't want his career destroyed. You didn't destroy it. He did. Collins stopped walking. There's something else you should know. Your father called Captain Morrison last week. Riley's stomach dropped. He what? Relax. It wasn't what you think. Collins turned to face her. He called to recuse himself from the investigation. Said he didn't want anyone claiming the review was influenced by his position. He wanted everything done by the book, no special treatment in either direction. So he's not interfering. The opposite. He's making sure no one can claim you got favorable treatment because of who he is. Collins paused. Your father is a complicated man, Hawkins, but he believes in you. More than that, he believes in the process. He wants you to earn this the right way. Riley looked out at the dark ocean. Everyone keeps saying that. Earn it. Prove yourself. But how much proving is enough? How many times do I have to save someone's life, or pass a test 3 times, or survive harassment before people accept that I belong here? Honestly, maybe never. Collins' voice was gentle but honest. There will always be people who look at you and see the Admiral's daughter. People who assume you got special treatment. People who believe women don't belong in special operations. Then what's the point? The point is, you're not doing this for them. You're doing this for you, and for every woman who comes after you. He started walking again. Your father once told me something during a mission that went bad. We were pinned down, taking fire, no way out. I asked him how he stayed so calm. You know what he said? What? He said, I'm not calm, I'm terrified. But fear is just information. It tells you what matters. Use it. Riley walked beside him in silence, processing his words. Your fear of not being accepted, of never being enough, that's information too. It tells you this matters to you. More than anything. Use that. They reached the barracks. Collins stopped at the door. Get some sleep, Hawkins. Phase 2 starts Monday. Combat diving is going to make Hell Week look like summer camp. Phase 2 began with a drowning. Not a real one. A simulated one. But the difference was academic when your lungs were burning and your vision was going black. Pool Week was designed to test underwater confidence. Candidates wore scuba gear and performed increasingly complex tasks while instructors harassed them. Masks ripped off, air hoses tied in knots, equipment scattered across the pool floor. The goal was simple: stay calm underwater no matter what happens. Riley excelled at it. The same skills that had nearly gotten her killed in Walsh's excessive testing now served her well. She'd been through worse. She'd survived 3 iterations of drowning. This was just training. But not everyone shared her confidence. Day 3 of Pool Week. A candidate named Thomas Brennan hit his breaking point. The instructors had tied his air hose in a knot while simultaneously pulling off his mask and fins. Standard harassment. Brennan was supposed to calmly untie his hose, retrieve his equipment, and continue the evolution. Instead, he panicked. He shot for the surface, violating the cardinal rule of combat diving. His rapid ascent without exhaling caused an arterial gas embolism. Air bubbles in his bloodstream, potentially fatal. The medical team pulled him from the pool within seconds. Corpsmen started emergency treatment immediately. But the damage was done. Brennan survived. He was medically discharged that afternoon. His career was over. Riley watched them load him into the ambulance, remembering every moment of her own underwater trials. The burning lungs, the narrowing vision, the desperate need to surface. She'd felt all of it. She just hadn't acted on it. Could have been any of us, Cole said, standing beside her. No, it couldn't. Riley's voice was flat. Brennan panicked. We didn't. That's cold. It's true. She turned to face him. I'm not saying he's weak, or I'm better. I'm saying the difference between him and us isn't physical. It's mental. He believed he was drowning. So he acted like someone drowning. We believed we could survive. So we did. You really think it's that simple? I think it has to be. Because when we're actually out there doing this for real, believing you can survive might be the only thing keeping you alive. Week 4 of Phase 2 brought dive physics. The science of breathing, underwater, nitrogen narcosis, decompression, sickness, the 100 ways the ocean could kill you if you didn't respect it. Riley absorbed the information like a sponge. This was the academic side of SEAL training, the part most people didn't see. You couldn't just be tough. You had to be smart and you had to understand pressure, depth, time, gas mixtures. One mistake in the math meant death. Hawkins, the instructor called. Calculate the no decompression limit for a dive to 100 feet using air. Approximately 25 minutes, instructor. And if we exceed that limit, we risk decompression sickness on ascent. Nitrogen bubbles form in the bloodstream and tissues, potentially causing joint pain, paralysis, or death. What's the treatment? Recompression in a hyperbaric chamber. Time is critical. The longer we wait, the more damage occurs. Correct. The instructor moved on, but Riley caught the slight nod, the acknowledgement that she knew her material. Knowledge wouldn't save her if she panicked underwater, but it might save her teammates if something went wrong. The final evolution of Phase 2 was a 2-mile underwater navigation swim. Teams of 2 would navigate from point A to point B, using only compass and depth gauge, surfacing only at designated checkpoints. Riley's partner was Elena Vasquez. You ready for this? Elena asked as they checked their equipment. Ready as I'll ever be. That's not reassuring. Neither is the Pacific at night. Riley secured her mask. But we've trained for this. We know what we're doing. Do we? Because I've been having nightmares about getting lost underwater and running out of air. Riley paused. Fear is just information. It tells you what matters. What? Something someone told me. Your fear means this matters to you. Use it. Let it sharpen your focus instead of clouding your judgment. Elena was quiet for a moment. When did you get so philosophical, somewhere between Hell Week and almost drowning 5 times? They entered the water at 2200. The Pacific was cold, dark, absolute. Their only connection to reality was the compass in Riley's hand and the pressure gauge on Elena's wrist. Swim, check bearing, adjust. Swim, check depth, adjust. The rhythm became hypnotic. Time lost meaning. There was only the water, the darkness, the steady kick of fins propelling them forward. Checkpoint 1 appeared as a faint glow in the blackness. They surfaced, confirmed their position, and descended again. Checkpoint 2. Checkpoint 3. Somewhere between 3 and 4, Elena's regulator started free-flowing. Air poured from the device in a continuous stream of bubbles, a malfunction that would drain her tank in minutes instead of hours. Riley saw Elena's eyes go wide behind her mask. Panic. The same panic that had killed Thomas Brennan's career. Riley grabbed Elena's arm, held up her hand. Wait. She reached for Elena's regulator, examined it in the dim glow of their dive lights. The first stage was stuck open. No field fix possible. Riley did the only thing she could. She removed her own regulator, handed it to Elena, and pointed up. Buddy breathing. Sharing air. The most basic survival technique in diving. They ascended slowly, passing the regulator back and forth, each taking 2 breaths before passing it to the other. The surface was 40 feet above them. An eternity when you're sharing air. 20 feet. Riley's lungs burned. She passed the regulator to Elena. 10 feet. Elena passed it back. Riley took one breath. Then they broke the surface together. "My tank's almost empty," Elena gasped. "Another minute and—" "But we didn't need another minute." Riley treaded water, catching her breath. "We made it. We're going to fail the evolution. We surfaced off checkpoint. We're alive. That matters more than any evolution." The safety boat found them 3 minutes later. They were pulled aboard, wrapped in thermal blankets, given hot coffee. Instructor Kelly checked Elena's equipment. "First stage malfunction. Not your fault." He looked at Riley. "Good call on the buddy breathing. Most candidates panic when their partner has an equipment failure. We trained for this, instructor. Training and execution are different things." He made a note on his clipboard. "You'll repeat the navigation swim tomorrow night. For now, get warm and get some rest." The next night, they completed the swim without incident. Riley and Elena finished in the top 10 pairs. Phase 2 ended with 33 candidates remaining. 8 more had quit or been dropped during combat diving. Riley walked out of the final brief with her Phase 2 qualification in hand. 2 phases down. 1 to go. Cole found her outside the briefing room. "Land warfare next. Guns, explosions, and shooting things." "My favorite." "You've never shot anything." "I've been shooting since I was 6 years old. My father taught me." Cole raised an eyebrow. "Of course he did." "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Just, your childhood was clearly different from mine." "My childhood was military bases and training exercises and a father who was never home because he was saving the world." Riley's voice was flat. "Different isn't always better." "Fair point." They walked toward the barracks in comfortable silence. "Hey, Hawkins. Yeah, in the pool when Elena's reg failed, you gave her your air without hesitation. Didn't even think about it." So, most people would freeze, calculate odds, weigh risks. You just acted." Riley stopped walking. "What's your point, Bradley?" "My point is, you're going to make a hell of a SEAL." He kept walking. "Don't let anyone tell you different." Phase 3 began on a Monday morning in September. Land warfare. The phase that would turn divers into warriors. The shooting range was the first evolution. Candidates would qualify on multiple weapons platforms: rifles, pistols, machine guns, grenade launchers. They would learn to shoot accurately under stress, in darkness, in rain, in every condition imaginable. Riley picked up her M4 rifle and felt something shift inside her. This was what she'd been training for her entire life. Not the swimming, not the running, not the endless physical punishment. This, the moment when preparation met purpose. "Hawkins, you're up." She stepped to the firing line, raised her weapon, and waited. "Targets," she fired. "Center mass, center mass, center mass." Every round exactly where it needed to be. The instructor checked her target, whistled softly. "Who taught you to shoot like that?" "My father, instructor." "Admiral Hawkins." "Yes, instructor. Remind me to thank him." He marked her score. "Highest of the day. Move on." The whispers started again, but they were different now. Not "Daddy's princess" or "special treatment." Now they were, "Did you see her shoot? And where did she learn that—" Some legacies Riley realized were worth inheriting. But she also knew that shooting paper targets was nothing like combat. The real test was still coming. It arrived 3 weeks later on a night that would change everything. The training exercise was supposed to be routine. Hostage rescue simulation in a shoot house. Blank rounds, role players, everything controlled and monitored. Then the real gunfire started. Riley was inside the shoot house when she heard it. Not the pop of blanks. The crack of live ammunition, coming from outside the training area. "That's not us," Cole said, freezing mid-movement. "I know." More shots. Screaming. The sound of chaos spreading through the facility. Riley's radio crackled. "All Phase 3 units shelter in place. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Active threat on base. QRF is responding. ETA 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Riley looked at her team, looked at their weapons loaded with blanks, looked at the door leading outside. "Cole, check your kit." "For what? Live rounds. Someone always carries a few for the range." Cole checked, found nothing. But Jake Thorne had a magazine of live ammunition he'd forgotten to turn in after the previous day's qualification. One magazine, 30 rounds, against an unknown number of attackers. "We should wait for QRF," Elena said. "Listen." They listened. More screaming. Closer now. "Someone's dying out there," Riley said. "And we're the only ones with weapons." "Blanks," Cole corrected. "Mostly blanks." "Then we'd better make the live rounds count." Riley took the live magazine, loaded it into her rifle, looked at her team. "Anyone who wants to stay here, stay. No judgment. This isn't what we signed up for." Nobody moved. "Then let's go save some lives." They moved out into the darkness toward the sound of gunfire, toward whatever was waiting for them. Riley Hawkins had spent her entire life preparing for this moment. She just didn't know it until now. The darkness outside the shoot house was alive with chaos. Riley moved in a crouch rifle up, scanning for threats. Behind her, Cole, Jake, Elena, and two other candidates followed in tactical formation. They had one magazine of live rounds between them, 30 bullets against an unknown enemy. "Contact left," Cole whispered. Riley froze. Saw movement near the maintenance building. 3 figures, 2 holding rifles, 1 holding something else. A hostage. "I count 3 hostiles, 1 civilian," Riley said quietly. "They're using the maintenance workers as shields." "We need to call this in." Jake's voice was tight. Riley keyed her radio. "Alpha team to command. We have eyes on hostiles. Maintenance building. 3 armed, 1 hostage visible." Static. Then Captain Morrison's voice. "Alpha team, hold position. QRF is 12 minutes out. Do not engage." 12 minutes. Cole's voice was barely audible. "That civilian doesn't have 12 minutes. Riley watched the scene unfold. One of the attackers was getting agitated, waving his weapon, screaming something she couldn't hear. "They're escalating," she said. "We have orders to hold." "Orders won't bring that hostage back if they execute him." Elena moved up beside her. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking we provide overwatch and containment. We don't engage unless we have to. But if that hostage is about to die, we act. With 30 rounds and blank ammunition. The attackers don't know our magazines are blank." Riley's mind was racing, calculating angles, possibilities, risks. "If we can flank them, create confusion, buy time." A scream cut through the night. Inside the maintenance building, one of the attackers had grabbed a second hostage, a woman. He was dragging her toward the door. "They're moving," Jake said. "If they get outside with hostages, this becomes a nightmare." Riley made a decision. "Cole, take Elena and Tyler around the east side. Jake, you're with me on the west. We create a perimeter. Nobody gets out with those hostages. And if they start shooting, then I use the live rounds and pray I don't miss." They split up. Riley and Jake moved through the darkness like ghosts, using every piece of cover, every shadow. Her father's training kicked in automatically. Move. Pause. Scan. Move again. They reached position just as the attackers emerged from the building. 4 of them now. The original 3 plus 1 more who'd been inside. They had 2 hostages, a man and a woman, both terrified, both with guns pressed against their heads. 4 hostiles, Riley radioed. 2 hostages. They're heading toward the parking lot. Morrison's voice came back, strained. QRF is 8 minutes out. Hold your position. 8 minutes. Riley watched the lead attacker. His movements were jerky, unpredictable. High on adrenaline or drugs or both. The kind of person who might kill a hostage just because someone looked at him wrong. Jake. Yeah, if that guy pulls the trigger, I'm taking the shot. You'll give away our position. Better than watching someone die when I could have stopped it. The attackers reached the parking lot. They were arguing now. Riley couldn't hear the words, but the body language was clear. Disagreement. Panic. The plan was falling apart. One of them raised his rifle toward the male hostage. Riley sighted down her barrel. Breath control. Trigger squeeze. Exactly as her father had taught her 10,000 times. She didn't fire, not yet. The attacker lowered his weapon. The argument continued. They don't know what they're doing, Jake whispered. This isn't professional. These are amateurs. Amateurs with hostages and automatic weapons. Fair point. The radio crackled. A new voice. Master Chief Collins. Hawkins, this is Collins. I'm 300 meters south of your position with a scoped rifle. Give me a sit rep. Riley felt a surge of relief. Collins. A trained sniper. Someone who could actually help. 4 hostiles, 2 hostages. Lead hostile is unstable. He's been threatening to shoot for the past 2 minutes. Can you identify which hostile has the clearest shot? Riley studied the group. The lead attacker had moved behind the male hostage, using him as a shield. The second was doing the same with the female. But the third and fourth were exposed. Hostiles 3 and 4 are in the open. 3 is on the left, armed with what looks like an AK variant. 4 is on the right handgun only. Copy. I have eyes on 3. If I take him, can your team handle 4? Riley looked at Jake. He nodded. We can handle 4. Stand by. The seconds stretched into eternity. Riley watched the lead attacker through her scope, praying he wouldn't do something stupid. He did. He grabbed the male hostage by the hair, put the rifle to his temple, and started screaming at the sky. Whatever plan they'd had was gone. This was a man coming apart. Collins, we're out of time. I see it. Taking the shot on 3 and 5. 4, 3. The crack of a rifle split the night. Hostile 3 dropped without a sound. Clean hit. Instant. Hostile 4 spun toward the sound, raising his handgun. Riley fired. 2 rounds center mass. Just like the range. Just like training. The difference was that this target fell and didn't get back up. The lead attacker screamed and pressed his rifle harder against the hostage's head. Stay back, I'll kill him. Don't move, Riley shouted, keeping her weapon trained. You're surrounded. They weren't surrounded. But he didn't know that. The second attacker released the female hostage and raised his hands. Surrender. Just like that, the math changed. 2 hostages, 1 remaining threat. Let him go, Riley called out. This is over. The lead attacker was crying now. Tears and snot streaming down his face. His hand shook so badly, Riley worried he'd fire accidentally. You don't understand. His voice cracked. They promised us. They promised it would be easy. Who promised you? Does it matter? We're dead anyway, all of us. You're not dead yet. Let him go and you walk out of here alive. To what prison cell for the rest of my life? To a trial? To a chance? That's more than you're offering him. The attacker looked at his hostage. Really looked. Something passed across his face, recognition of what he was about to do, maybe. Or just exhaustion. He let go. The hostage stumbled forward, sobbing. Jake was there immediately, pulling him to safety. Hands up, Riley commanded. Down on your knees. The attacker complied. His weapon fell from trembling fingers. He knelt in the parking lot and put his hands behind his head. Riley didn't lower her rifle until QRF arrived 4 minutes later. The aftermath was chaos. Military police swarmed the scene. Medics rushed to the hostages. Investigators began documenting everything. Riley's team was separated, and each member taken for individual debriefing. Riley sat in a bare room with Captain Morrison and 2 investigators she'd never seen before. "Walk us through it again," Morrison said. "4th time, sir. 4th time." Riley walked through it. The gunfire, the decision to move, the tactical positioning. Collins's shot. Her shot. "You killed a man tonight, Candidate Hawkins." "Yes, sir." "How do you feel about that?" Riley was quiet for a moment. How did she feel? The question seemed absurd. A man was dead because she'd pulled the trigger, but 2 hostages were alive because she'd pulled the trigger. "I feel like I did my job, sir." "You're not in the teams yet. This wasn't your job." "Respectfully, sir, someone was about to die. I was in a position to stop it. That made it my job." Morrison exchanged a glance with the investigators. "Your actions tonight will be subject to formal review. The shooting appears justified, but process is process." He paused. "Off the record, Candidate, that was some of the finest tactical thinking I've seen from a Phase 3 trainee." "Thank you, sir." "Don't thank me yet. This is going to get complicated before it gets simple." The investigation took 3 weeks. Riley was placed on administrative hold while the review board examined every aspect of the incident. Her shooting was analyzed frame by frame using security footage. Her decisions were questioned by lawyers, psychologists, military brass. Through it all, she maintained one consistent position: she had acted to save lives. Nothing more, nothing less. Master Chief Collins testified on her behalf. His shot had been authorized under defensive rules of engagement. But Riley's shot existed in a gray area. She was a candidate, not an active duty SEAL, and her use of lethal force was technically unauthorized. The board deliberated for 2 days. On the morning of the 3rd day, Captain Morrison called her into his office. "The review board has reached a decision." Riley stood at attention, prepared for anything. "Your actions have been deemed justified under the principle of defense of others. No charges will be filed. Your status as a Bud ES candidate is restored effective immediately." Riley exhaled. She hadn't realized she'd been holding her breath. "There's more," Morrison continued. "The review board has recommended you for the Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal for your actions during the attack." "Sir, I was just doing your job." "Yes, you mentioned that." Morrison almost smiled. "The board disagrees. What you did went beyond duty. You identified a threat, made tactical decisions under fire, coordinated with available assets, and executed lethal force with precision and restraint. That's not just doing your job. That's demonstrating exactly the kind of leadership we need in the teams." Riley didn't know what to say. "There's one more thing." Morrison's tone shifted. "Your father is here." Vice Admiral Marcus Hawkins was waiting in the conference room. He looked older than Riley remembered. More gray in his hair, more lines around his eyes. The legendary SEAL commander who had terrified enemies and inspired allies looked in this moment simply like a worried father. "Riley." "Dad." They stood across from each other, the conference table between them, like a barrier neither knew how to cross. "I watched the footage," Marcus said. "All of it. And I've never been more terrified in my life." His voice cracked slightly. "Or more proud. I did what I had to do. I know. That's what terrifies me." Marcus moved around the table closer to his daughter. "When you told me you wanted to do this, I knew you'd face challenges. Discrimination, doubt, physical suffering. I prepared myself for all of that." But not for this, not for watching my little girl kill a man in a parking lot. He stopped a foot away from her. You're 18 years old, Riley. 18. And you've already done something most operators never have to do. I'm not most operators. No, you're not. Marcus put his hands on her shoulders. You're better. And that's what scares me most. Riley felt something crack inside her. The armor she'd built over months of training, years of proving herself, a lifetime of living in her father's shadow. It all crumbled in an instant. She hugged him. For the first time since she'd arrived at Coronado, Riley Hawkins let herself be a daughter instead of a candidate. Marcus held her tight. I'm sorry I wasn't here. Sorry I couldn't protect you. You did protect me. Riley's voice was muffled against his chest. Everything you taught me, shooting tactics, keeping calm under pressure, that's what saved those people. That was you, not me. It was both of us, Dad. Everything good in me came from you. They stood there for a long moment, father and daughter, two warriors finding peace in each other. Finally, Marcus stepped back. Your mother called. Is she okay? She's fine. She's proud of you. He paused. She's also terrified, but mostly proud. I should call her. You should. But first there's something I need to tell you. Marcus sat down, gestured for Riley to join him. When I started Buds, I was 19 years old. Cocky, confident. I thought I knew everything. What happened? Hell Week happened. Pool competency happened. All the things you've been through. He leaned forward. But there was one moment that changed everything. One evolution that separated who I was from who I became. What was it? A night exercise, land navigation. My partner got hurt, broke an ankle from a fall. I had a choice: leave him and complete the evolution, or stay with him and fail. What did you do? I stayed, carried him 3 miles back to base on my back. We both failed the evolution. The instructors were furious. Marcus smiled slightly. But one of them pulled me aside afterward. Master Chief Harold Green, dead now, 30 years. He said something I've never forgotten. What? He said the teams don't need operators who complete missions. They need operators who bring their people home. Marcus met Riley's eyes. That's what you did tonight. You brought those hostages home. Riley processed this. I thought you never talked about your Buds experience. I don't. Not usually. But you earned this story. He stood. Finish your training, Riley. Earn your trident. And when you do, remember that the mission is never more important than the people. And if I have to choose between completing the mission and saving lives, then you choose lives, every time. Because missions end. But the weight of the people you didn't save that stays with you forever. He walked to the door, then stopped. One more thing. That tiara they put in your locker, the one you kept. Riley blinked. How do you know about that? I know everything that happens on my bases. He smiled. Keep it. Wear it at graduation. Let them see that their insult became your crown. Then he was gone. Training resumed the following Monday. Riley returned to Phase 3, with her team picking up where they'd left off before the attack. But everything was different now. The candidates who'd mocked her, who'd called her princess, who'd left tiaras in her locker and sand in her boots, they looked at her differently now. Not with acceptance, necessarily, but with respect. Jake Thorne found her at the shooting range on her first day back. I've been thinking about what you did. Which part? All of it. The tactical decisions, the coordination with Collins, the shots. He shook his head. I've been in training for almost a year now. I don't know if I could have done what you did. You could have. Maybe. Maybe not. But here's the thing. Jake stepped closer. I spent 6 months trying to break you, trying to prove you didn't belong. And in one night you proved you belong more than any of us. Jake, let me finish. I was wrong about you. Wrong about women in the teams. Wrong about legacy and privilege and all the things I thought I knew. He extended his hand. I'm sorry. Riley looked at his hand for a long moment. Then she shook it. Apology accepted. Just like that. Just like that. We've got 3 more weeks of training, Thorne. I'd rather spend them working together than fighting. Jake nodded. Together it is. Elena Vasquez was next. Then Tyler Kim. Then Marcus Webb, fully recovered from his near drowning months ago. One by one, the walls came down. The candidates who'd seen Riley as an outsider began to see her as a teammate. The attack had changed everything, but not everyone was convinced. Senior Chief Mercer found Riley alone one evening, cleaning her weapon after a long day of live fire exercises. Hawkins. Senior Chief. Mercer sat across from her. His face was unreadable. I've been doing this for 15 years. Training candidates, breaking the weak, building the strong. He paused. I thought I knew what strength looked like. And now I'm not sure. He looked at her. Really looked. What you did during that attack that wasn't training, that was instinct. The kind of instinct that takes most operators years to develop. I've been preparing for this my whole life, Senior Chief. I know. That's what I couldn't accept. I thought your preparation was your father's name, your father's influence. I thought you were coasting on legacy. And now... Mercer was quiet for a long moment. Now I think your father prepared you better than any training program ever could. And I think I wasted 6 months trying to break someone who was never going to break. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't redemption. But it was acknowledgement. Thank you, Senior Chief. Don't thank me. Earn your trident. Prove that everything I thought was wrong. I intend to. Mercer stood, walked to the door, stopped. For what it's worth, Hawkins that shot you took during the attack. That was one of the cleanest combat kills I've ever seen. Then he was gone. 3 weeks later, Phase 3 ended. 26 candidates remained. 26 men and women who had survived Hell Week, Pool Week, land warfare, and everything in between. 26 people who had earned the right to attempt the final evaluation. The graduation date was set for December 15th. Riley Hawkins had one more test to pass. And this time, failure wasn't an option. December 15th arrived with the kind of cold clarity that felt like judgment. Riley Hawkins stood in formation with 25 other candidates, each one a survivor of 9 months of suffering. They'd started with 180. They'd ended with 26. The numbers told a story of broken bodies, shattered dreams, and relentless attrition. But numbers didn't tell Riley's story. Her story was written in the scars on her feet, the calluses on her hands, the memories of drowning and shooting and saving lives. Her story was written in the faces of the men and women standing beside her people who'd hated her, doubted her, and eventually respected her. Captain Morrison approached the podium. Behind him, a row of senior officers sat in silence. Among them, Vice Admiral Marcus Hawkins, his face carved from stone, giving nothing away. Today, Morrison began, you complete the most demanding military training in the world. Today you earn the right to call yourselves Navy SEALs. A murmur passed through the formation. After everything they'd endured, those words still carried weight. But before we proceed, there is one final evaluation. One last test to determine if you truly have what it takes. Riley's stomach dropped. Final evaluation. This wasn't part of the standard graduation protocol. You will be divided into teams of 4. Each team will complete a full mission profile, insertion, objective capture, and extraction. Live ammunition. Real consequences. This is not a simulation. But Cole Bradley caught Riley's eye from 3 positions down the line. His expression said everything. What the hell is this? Team assignments are as follows. Morrison read the names. Riley was assigned to Team Alpha with Cole Bradley, Elena Vasquez, and Jake Thorne. The 4 people she'd survived Hell Week with. The 4 people who'd become something like family over 9 months of shared suffering. You have 30 minutes to gear up. Mission brief in Conference Room A. The formation dispersed. Riley found her team immediately. Did you know about this? Jake demanded. No, this isn't standard. Nothing about your training has been standard, Elena said quietly. Cole was already moving toward the armory. Doesn't matter what it is. We've trained for this. We execute. The mission brief was detailed and terrifying. Intelligence had identified a high-value target operating from a compound in the training area's most remote sector. The target was a role player, but everything else was real. Real weapons, real extraction protocols, real consequences for failure. Your objective, the briefing officer explained, is to infiltrate the compound, secure the target, and extract to the designated pickup point. You will face armed opposition. Rules of engagement authorize lethal force against confirmed hostiles. Riley studied the compound layout. 2 buildings. Multiple entry points. Unknown number of defenders. The kind of mission that could go wrong in 100 different ways. Questions. Sir, Cole said, what's the catch? Excuse me. This is graduation day. We've already passed every evaluation. What's the actual purpose of this mission? The briefing officer exchanged glances with Captain Morrison. The purpose, Morrison said, stepping forward, is to see how you perform when everything is real. Training teaches skills. Combat reveals character. We need to know who you are when lives are actually on the line. Riley thought about the attack 3 weeks ago. The parking lot. The hostages. The man she'd killed. She already knew who she was when lives were on the line. One more thing, Morrison added. This mission has been specifically designed for Team Alpha. The opposition knows you're coming. They know your capabilities. They've been given information about each of you. Jake swore under his breath. So they know our weaknesses. They know what you've shown us over 9 months. What you show them tonight is up to you. The insertion point was 2 miles from the compound. Team Alpha moved through the darkness in tactical formation, Riley on point, Cole covering rear. They communicated through hand signals and whispered radio calls, every movement precise and purposeful. At the 1-mile mark, Riley raised her fist. Stop. Something was wrong. She scanned the terrain ahead, searching for whatever had triggered her instincts. Movement, sound, anything. There. A glint of light where there shouldn't be light. Ambush position, she breathed into her radio. 200 meters, 10 o'clock. I don't see anything, Jake replied. Trust me. They altered course, swinging wide around the suspected ambush point. It cost them 10 minutes, but potentially saved their lives. As they passed the original route, Riley spotted them, 4 armed figures concealed in the brush, waiting for a team that would never come. Good call, Hawkins, Cole said. We're not there yet. The compound emerged from the darkness like a wound in the landscape. 2 buildings exactly as briefed. Lights in the windows, shadows moving inside. Riley assessed the situation. I count 6 hostiles visible, probably more inside. Entry plan, Elena asked. We split. Cole and Jake take the north building. Elena and I take the south. We move simultaneously, clear our objectives rendezvous at the extraction point. And the target? Intelligence says south building 2nd floor. Elena and I will secure him. Jake hesitated. You sure about splitting up? I'm sure that 8 hostiles between us and the target is too many to take head on. We divide their attention, we improve our odds. Or we die separately instead of together. Then don't die. Riley checked her weapon. 60 seconds. Move on my mark. They split. Riley and Elena approached the south building from the east, using shadows and terrain for cover. Every step brought them closer to armed opposition, closer to the moment when training became reality. 30 meters from the building, Elena tapped Riley's shoulder. Contact, ground floor window. Riley saw him, a single guard facing inward weapon slung across his chest. I've got him. She moved closer. 20 meters, 15, 10. The guard turned. For a heartbeat, they stared at each other. Then Riley fired. 2 rounds. Center mass. The guard dropped. Go! Riley shouted. They burst through the door. 2 more hostiles in the ground floor hallway. Elena took the first with a controlled burst. Riley took the second with a single shot to the chest. Gunfire erupted from the north building. Cole and Jake were engaged. Keep moving, Riley called. 2nd floor. They climbed the stairs, checking corners, covering angles. Riley's heart pounded in her chest, but her hands were steady. This was what she'd trained for. This was who she was. The 2nd floor hallway stretched ahead of them. 3 doors. Anyone could hold the target, or an enemy waiting to kill them. First door, Elena whispered. Riley nodded. They stacked up. Elena hit the door. Riley went through first. Empty. 2nd door. Same procedure. Empty. 3rd door. Riley felt something change in the air. A presence. A threat. She kicked the door open and dove to the side just as gunfire tore through the space where she'd been standing. Contact! 2 hostiles inside, both armed, both firing. Riley returned fire from the ground, her shots finding their marks despite the impossible angle. 1 hostile fell. Elena took the second with a burst that sent him spinning backward. Silence. Riley rose, scanned the room, and found him. The target. A man in civilian clothes, hands raised, face pale with fear. Target secured, she radioed. Moving to extraction. Cole's voice crackled back. North building clear. We're taking fire from the compound perimeter. Multiple hostiles converging on your position. Copy. We'll punch through. Meet at the rally point. Riley grabbed the target by the arm. Move. Stay behind me. Do exactly what I say. Please don't hurt me. The man's voice shook. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm going to get you out of here. They descended the stairs and emerged into chaos. Gunfire from multiple directions. Muzzle flashes in the darkness, hostiles converging from the perimeter exactly as Cole had warned. Riley made a split-second decision. Elena, cover fire. I'm taking the target through the east corridor. That's toward the enemy. Exactly. They won't expect us to run toward them. It was insane. It was brilliant. It was the only option. Riley sprinted toward the gunfire, the target stumbling behind her, Elena laying down suppressive fire that forced the hostiles to take cover. She broke through their line before they realized what was happening. 2 hostiles turned to engage, but Riley was faster. 2 shots. 2 kills. She didn't stop moving. Cole and Jake appeared from the north building, adding their fire to the chaos. The hostiles were caught in a crossfire they hadn't anticipated. Rally point! Riley shouted. Go, go, go! The team converged and ran. Behind them, the compound erupted in confused shouting and scattered gunfire. The opposition had been outmaneuvered, outfought, outthought. They reached the extraction point 8 minutes ahead of schedule. The helicopter was waiting. As they piled aboard, Riley looked back at the compound one last time. Smoke, fire, the aftermath of violence. She felt nothing. No, that wasn't true. She felt something, but it wasn't regret or trauma or horror. It was satisfaction. The satisfaction of a job done well. The helicopter lifted off, carrying them back to base, back to graduation, back to the rest of their lives. The graduation ceremony took place at 1400. 26 candidates stood in dress uniforms, their families filling the seats behind them. Riley's mother had flown in from San Diego. Her stepfather had come despite his health concerns. Even her grandmother, 83 years old and frail, had insisted on attending. Vice Admiral Marcus Hawkins stood at the podium. Today we recognize 26 men and women who have proven themselves worthy of the SEAL Trident. They have endured physical suffering that would break most human beings. They have demonstrated mental fortitude that defines the special operations community. They have earned the right to join the most elite fighting force in the world. He paused, his eyes finding Riley in the formation. Among these candidates is one who faced challenges beyond the standard training. One who was targeted, doubted, and tested in ways that went far beyond what anyone should have to endure. One who responded to every challenge with excellence, every doubt with proof, every attack with grace. Riley's throat tightened. She hadn't expected this. This candidate saved 2 lives during training, not in simulations. In reality, this candidate killed an enemy combatant to protect innocent civilians. This candidate led a team through a final evaluation that was designed specifically to break her. She didn't break. Marcus stepped away from the podium and walked toward the formation. Candidate Hawkins, front and center. Riley moved forward, her heart pounding. Every eye in the room was on her. Marcus held the trident in his hands. The Golden Eagle anchor pistol and trident that symbolized everything a SEAL was supposed to be. Honor, courage, commitment. It is my privilege, Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion, to present this trident to my daughter. Not because she is my daughter, but because she has earned it, through blood, sweat, and sacrifice that would humble any warrior. He pinned the trident to her chest. The room erupted in applause. Riley looked at her father through tear-filled eyes. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me. Marcus's voice was quiet, meant only for her. Thank yourself. Thank the girl who refused to quit. Thank the woman you've become. He stepped back and saluted her. Riley returned the salute. For the first time in her life, she felt like she'd stepped out of her father's shadow. Not because she'd escaped it, but because she'd grown tall enough to cast her own. The reception after the ceremony was chaos in the best possible way. Riley's mother hugged her so tight she could barely breathe. Her grandmother cried and called her a warrior. Her stepfather shook her hand with awkward formality, then pulled her into an embrace that surprised them both. Cole found her near the refreshment table. So, Petty Officer Hawkins, how does it feel? Surreal, like I'm going to wake up and find out it was all a dream. It wasn't a dream. The bruises prove it. Speaking of bruises, Riley turned to face him fully. Thank you. For everything. For sitting with me when no one else would. For having my back when it mattered. That's what teammates do. Not everyone sees it that way. Cole shrugged. Then not everyone deserves to wear the trident. Jake Thorne approached Elena at his side. The 4 of them Hell Week Survivors combat teammates. SEAL graduates stood together in a circle that felt complete. So what's next? Elena asked. SEAL team assignment. Eventually, more training first, advanced tactics, specialized skills, the usual 2 years of preparation before deployment. 2 more years, Jake groaned. Haven't we suffered enough? We've suffered enough to earn the right to suffer more, Riley said. That's what being a SEAL means. That's a terrible recruitment slogan. It's an honest one. Master Chief Collins appeared at the edge of their group. He looked different in his dress uniform, more formal, more distant, but his eyes were warm. Congratulations, Petty Officer Hawkins. Thank you, Master Chief. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've trained hundreds of SEALs, but I've never seen anyone quite like you. Is that a compliment? It's an observation. Collins glanced at the others. Take care of each other. The teams are brotherhood, but they're also battle. You'll need people you trust absolutely. We have that, Cole said. Then you have everything that matters. Collins nodded to them and walked away. Riley watched him go, thinking about everything he'd done for her. The protection, the advocacy, the honest conversations that had kept her sane when the pressure threatened to break her. She'd have to thank him properly someday, when the moment was right. Her father found her as the reception was winding down. Walk with me. They stepped outside, away from the noise and the crowds and the overwhelming emotion. The California evening was cool and clear, stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. I have something for you, Marcus said. He handed her a small box. Riley opened it. Inside was a challenge coin. On one side, the SEAL trident. On the other, an inscription, Hawkins' Legacy, earned not given. I had it made for you, Marcus explained, for when you graduated. I didn't know if that day would come, but I hoped. Dad, you don't have to say anything. I just wanted you to know that I never doubted you. Not once. I was terrified for you. I was heartbroken by what they put you through, but I never doubted that you could do it. Riley clutched the coin in her fist. I doubted myself. Sometimes. Late at night when the pain was too much and the hatred was too loud. Everyone doubts themselves. That's not weakness. Weakness is letting the doubt win. You never seemed to doubt yourself. All those stories about your missions, your courage. You always seemed so certain. Marcus laughed softly. Riley, I was terrified every single day of my career. Every mission, every deployment, every moment in combat. The difference isn't feeling fear. It's acting despite fear. Then I guess I'm more like you than I thought. You're nothing like me. Marcus put his hands on her shoulders. You're better, stronger, more resilient. You faced challenges I never had to face, and you overcame them with a grace I never possessed. I killed a man, Dad. I shot him in the chest and watched him die. I know. How do you live with that? How do you carry that weight? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. You carry it by remembering why. You carry it by knowing that your action saved lives. You carry it by being worthy of the choice you made. And if the weight gets too heavy, then you lean on the people who love you. And you remember that carrying weight is what makes us strong. Riley looked at the challenge coin in her hand. Hawkins' Legacy, earned not given. I'm going to make you proud, Dad. You already have. Every day for 18 years. But especially today. They stood in silence for a moment, father and daughter. Two warriors connected by blood and bound by service. There's one more thing, Riley said. The tiara. The one they put in my locker. What about it? She reached into her pocket and pulled out the cheap plastic crown. She'd been carrying it all day, waiting for this moment. You said I should wear it at graduation. Let them see that their insult became my crown. She placed the tiara on her head, right above the SEAL trident pinned to her chest. Marcus stared at her for a second. Then he laughed, a real laugh full of joy and pride and relief. "Perfect," he said. "Absolutely perfect." They walked back to the reception together. Riley wore her trident and her tiara, her father's challenge coin clutched in her hand. When they entered the room, everyone stopped. For a moment, no one knew how to react. The image was absurd, a newly minted Navy SEAL wearing a child's princess crown alongside the most prestigious warfare insignia in the military. Then Cole started laughing. Elena joined him. Jake, Marcus Webb. One by one, the entire room erupted in laughter and applause. Riley stood in the center of it all, smiling. They'd called her Daddy's princess. They'd meant it as an insult, a dismissal. Proof that she didn't belong. But Riley Hawkins had never let others define her. She'd taken their insult and turned it into a crown. She'd taken their doubt and transformed it into fuel. She'd taken their hatred and alchemized it into strength. Now she stood before them, trident on her chest and tiara on her head, the living proof that legacy isn't something you inherit. Legacy is something you build. Legacy is something you earn. And Riley Hawkins had earned every single piece of hers. Elena found her later that night after the reception had ended and the families had gone home. "You know what's funny?" "What?" "When I started this program, I wanted to quit every single day. The only reason I didn't was because of you. Me, you. Watching you take everything they threw at you and keep going. Watching you save David Park in that ocean swim. Watching you refuse to break no matter what they did." Elena shook her head. "You made me believe it was possible." "It was always possible, Elena. You just needed to see it. That's my point. I needed to see someone do it first. Someone who looked like me, struggled like me, faced the same doubts and discrimination. You were that someone." Riley thought about her father's words. Legacy isn't just about what you accomplish. It's about what you make possible for others. "Then do the same for the next woman who shows up," Riley said. "Show her it's possible. Be the proof she needs." "I will. I promise." They embraced two warriors who had become sisters through shared suffering. Tomorrow, they would begin the next phase of their training. More challenges, more tests, more opportunities to prove themselves. But tonight, they were Navy SEALs. Tonight, they had earned their place in history. And tomorrow, they would start building their own legacies, legacies that would inspire generations of warriors yet to come. The SEALs' justice wasn't revenge. It wasn't punishment. It wasn't even recognition. The SEALs' justice was truth. The truth that excellence has no gender, that courage knows no pedigree, that the only thing that matters in the arena is what you're willing to sacrifice to be there. Riley Hawkins had sacrificed everything, and she had earned everything in return. That was the SEALs' justice. That was her story. And it was only the beginning.